Welcome in, I'm Archers, and in this video we're going to be going over Green Mihawk, a new leader from OP14 that says if your opponent's leader has the slash attribute, this leader gains 1000 power. And then activate main once per turn, you may rest one of your cards. If there is a character with a cost of 5 or more, set up to 3 of your Dawn cards as active, then you cannot play character cards from your hand during this turn. This is a lot of text. We're getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Region at this point. I'm just kidding. It's obviously not that bad, but this leader is actually really good and probably vying to be one of the best leaders from OP14. But before we go over the deck list and how the deck operates, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button and also give the video a thumbs up while you're at it. It helps out the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord community. The link for that is in the description below. So Mihawk comes into the OP14 meta, eclipsing what was the best green deck in the previous format, which was Green Zoro, rightfully so, and kind of like a lore accuracy there. I love when the One Piece card game does that. But with this leader, he is very powerful. He plays a lot of strong units in the late game that will have interesting effects when they are arrested. By interesting, I mean overpowering in some senses. So this leader ends up using those effects while also being very Dawn efficient and getting extra Dawn to swing with on top of that. You can't play characters once you do the ability, but that's not a problem. You can use the extra Dawn for either counter events or also, like I just said, swinging harder into the opponent. With this in mind, there are a couple of builds that are going around that I think people are trying to decide what is the best version. There's a Supernova version which ends up running more searchers and also the 6-cost law. I prefer the version that has a little bit more of a high roll where you kind of have to draw into the things that you want to naturally, and as a result you end up having a higher ceiling. So I prefer that as opposed to having a little bit more of a consistency based package. So first off, we are running a playset of the 1-cost Perona Searcher. This is an on play. If your leader has the slash attribute, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal up to 1 slash attribute card or up to 1 green event card and put it into your hand, then place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So with this card alone, you are able to grab pretty much every card in your deck. There is a handful of cards that we have that you won't be able to grab, which are going to be the 5-cost Bonnie, the 10-cost Doflamingo, and the Coffin Boat stage. But outside of that, oh, and also the other Perona, the 5-cost Perona, but outside of that, you can grab anything else because of the fact that every card in this deck has slash, or you also have the events you can grab with this. So Perona is a very powerful searcher for this deck. Next up, we have a playset of the OP14 2K counter Kikunojo. It's a 1-cost 2000 power character, and it says end of your turn, set this character as active. So this card will enable your leader ability to go off more often than not, and then also on top of that, you can use it for other effects that might need cards to be rested, such as the Perona KO ability, the Tashigi activate main ability, or also your 1-cost Mihawk counter event. I don't exactly know what the name of it is. Strive to surpass me, Roanoa Zoro. So you can also use that with this. So this Kikunojo has a lot of flexibility in how it can be used. You can also use it as an attacker on your second turn if you're going first and you play this down on turn 1. You can swing 5 with this, and then your opponent can't answer it the next turn by swinging into it. Then I'm running a playset of another 2K counter from OP14. It's the 3-cost 4000 power human drill. It says your turn when this character is rested. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Sometimes this is a good card to throw down on your 3 Dawn turn. Otherwise, it's a solid 2K as well. This has some good implication, obviously, when you're attacking with it, being able to rest 4 costs. There's a lot of 4 costs that you're going to want to rest in this meta. So very early on, if you can throw this down, I would suggest considering it. Otherwise, like I said, just hold it into your hand. And then to round out the rest of the 2Ks that we have in the deck, so we have 12 total. This is a playset of the Zoro 2K counter that's also a blocker. It says opponent's turn, if this character would be rested by one of your opponent's character's effect, you may rest one of your other characters instead. So this blocker at least stays upright if your opponent has something to rest it. For instance, if you're going into the mirror and they decide to deadman game, then you can use that ability to keep this blocker upright. So that alone is worth running in my opinion. I like having in most of my decks 12 2Ks, especially when the 2Ks you have are very playable. Now for the next card, we're running 2 of the 5-cost Bonnie blocker from OP12. I personally really like this card as an option to stay rather healthy towards the end game if you need to throw a blocker down. Obviously, you have this Zoro you can throw down, but I think that this Bonnie is very efficient as well. Being able to filter your hand and then restand Dawn at the end of the turn is nothing to scoff at. Now here with this card, you're going to notice that we have a very specific curve with our 5, 7, 9s, and so that is the start of the 5s that we have. This is probably the least important card of the 5s for what we're about to go over. Now next, we have a playset of the new Tashigi, which is a 5-cost 6,000 power character that says opponent's turn. If this character would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you may rest one of your cards instead, and then activate main once per turn. You may rest two of your cards. This character gains plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So this Tashigi has some built-in protection from removal. The protection is not once per turn. Keep that in mind. It's actually anytime that you have cards that you can rest, you can. And you can also rest this card itself if it is standing upright and your opponent tries to remove it. So this Tashigi is very sticky and a great card to drop on curve. Then we have one of the most powerful 5-cost cards to come out of this set. This is a 5-cost 6,000 power Perona. On play, up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. And then on KO, you may rest one of your cards. Play up to 1 green character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. So of course, this being able to be played out, stopping 2 attacks the next turn. And then if your opponent decides to get rid of it by swinging into it, you can always use the effect to cheat out another body, whether that's a Tashigi, it could be this Bonnie, it could actually be the Zoro. So there's a lot of options that are pretty good for this Perona to at least cheat out another character on KO. So I really like this card. Obviously, this is going to be one of the best cards to throw down when you're going against something like Boa, because of the fact that they go very wide. You can at least freeze a couple of those units. And what I mean by freeze, you can actually just prevent them from resting, which means they can't block or attack. So a really good card overall. Next up, we have the 7-cost 9,000 power Shanks, one of the more powerful cards, especially if you're seeing it on curve. Now, Mihawk is not necessarily just curve gaming, but when you do see your curve, oh man, it feels really good. But with this card on 7, you can rest it using your leader ability. And when you rest this card, it says your turn when the card is rested. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a 7,000 base power or less. And then on the opponent's turn, if this card is rested, give all of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power. So a nice blanket effect to really slow down an opponent's aggression if they have a very wide board. Otherwise, this card is going to be used to control the opponent's board by resting characters you can swing into. So this Shanks is really powerful once again on your 7 Dawn turn. You can also play it later on in the game and it's still really powerful because of the blanket effect, minus 1,000 power, as we've seen with the 10-cost Rush Shanks in red. Very similarly, this is a hard card to get past, especially against aggro decks. Like if you go against a Jinbei, this will be your best card to throw down because of the fact that Jinbei is swinging for a lot of 5s and now they can't swing for those 5s as easily. Similarly applies to other decks that go very wide. Then is the start of all of the boss monsters of the deck. We have the 9-cost, 10,000 power Mihawk, secret rare from OP14. Your turn when this character is rested, up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 9 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. Wow, that is actually really strong, being able to get such a huge tempo swing back into your favor, especially when there's a lot of 8 or 9-cost characters that are really powerful. Preventing them from attacking or even resting for that matter is really strong. This also applies to blockers, which we've seen a lot more 6-cost, 7-cost blockers start popping up here and there. So this is really powerful. And then the other effect here, on your opponent's attack once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand up to one of your leader or character cards gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. So yet again, because we are running a lot of bricks, having this ability is very strong because you can just pitch cards that might be dead in your hand otherwise. Then I'm running 2 of the 10-cost Doflamingo from OP04. On play, a total of up to 3 of your opponent's rested characters or leaders do not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. Really strong to be able to get that tempo back in your favor. As you can see, we're running a lot of tempo cards where you're preventing your opponent from attacking. There's a lot of freezing going on, so it can be very frustrating for an opponent to have to deal with. This card obviously being one of those cards that your opponent doesn't want to see come down on 10, but we also have another playset actually of cards that your opponent is not going to want to see come down on 10, which is the Law and Beppo, which is very, very strong for this deck. Actually, probably the perfect card for this deck overall. 10-cost, 11,000 power character, comes out of starter deck for 24. It says on play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters, and that character will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. Then if your opponent has 2 or more rested characters, your leader gains plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So essentially, you can look at this card and all of the cards as cheaper versions of themselves, because when this comes out, you can then rest it, and then on top of that, you're getting the 3 Dawn back. So it's a 7-cost, 11,000 power character that freezes a character and potentially makes your leader a 7,000 power character for the next turn, and also you get that 3 Dawn to do with what you would please. So of course, this card is going to be a playset. It's searchable because it does have a slash attribute type, and it is a very powerful card to see on 10. I'm going to want to see this more often than not than the Doffy. The Doffy, of course, is sometimes powerful depending on who you're going against, but the Law and Beppo is definitely a great top-end piece to keep you alive and prolong the game and get you to that spot where you can just kind of immediately take over the game at that point. So Law and Beppo, really powerful. Don't reduce this. I think it's a 4 of for sure. One thing I do want to note is at the end of the video, I will go over some extra cards that you might want to consider for this deck that are not included in this specific deck list, because there are quite a lot you can consider. Then onto the counter events, I am running 2 Dead Man's Game, just being able to rest 4 Dawn total and rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters or 2 Dawn. Obviously, having a Hody Jones on an event is pretty powerful there. The counter event is less relevant because of the fact that it only protects your leader, but it is obviously something you could hold on to if you do need it. This one I'm going to hold on to for more of an aggressive stance. I want to use this offensively rather than defensively because we have some pretty strong defensive events in the Strive to Surpass Me Roanoa Zoro. This is a 1-cost counter event that says you may rest one of your cards. It could be any card for that matter, whether it's a character, a Dawn card, your leader if it's still standing upright, or your stage. So this, of course, is up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. And then the trigger is you may rest one of your cards, rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 7,000 base power or less. So both the counter event and also the trigger are pretty strong there, and I like this as a very strong defensive event. There are some other events I would include. Once again, we'll go over that at the end of the video. And then finally, we have a playset of Coffin Boat, a 1-cost stage. It says on play, if your leader is Dracula Mihawk, draw 1 card, and then end of your turn, if your leader is Dracula Mihawk, set up to 1 of your Dawn cards as active. So this is a great way to allow your leader ability to be procced more often than not, because of the fact you can just rest this for a lot of effects. Resting this and then getting 3 Dawn back is very powerful. Your opponent doesn't really have a way to interact with it unless, of course, you're going against something like Black Croc or maybe Emu if they want to get rid of this. There's obviously other niche cards that can get rid of this as well, but more times than not, this will stick on the field. Being able to have a cantrip to draw and replace itself is really strong, and then having that Dawn open at the end of the turn to use for effects, whether it is for counter events or maybe protecting your Tashigi, or on KO for Perona, bringing a card out. There's a lot of implications on what you can use that Dawn for. So this card is very powerful for the deck. You might glance over this and be like, it's just a stage, it doesn't really matter too much, but it really does a lot for this deck, which you don't see that quite often with stages these days. There's a few decks that run stages. This one isn't reliant on the stage, but if the stage is on the field, it really, really helps the deck. With that being said, I think that this leader is very strong. I want to say that it is almost an S tier deck. I would expect this deck to be topping events quite consistently. It has pretty strong matchups across the board, and especially if you see your curve, it's hard for the opponent to really just overcome this deck. You can overwhelm your opponent with a bunch of tall characters that also prevent your opponent from resting their characters as well. So once again, very frustrating. You're kind of like freezing your opponent while also being very aggressive in the meantime. With all that in mind though, let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. All right, on to Zoro. I think I'm going to just take first here because my curve is more than likely always going to be first. Here we are seeing a pretty strong hand where we can just play Coffin Boat on 1, draw into something. The next turn we can play Perona and Kikunojo if we want. It's nice to have our leader be a 6,000 power leader, 5 life, because of the fact that Zoro is a slash attribute leader. I think we just grab a 9-cost Mihawk. We could grab 2Ks, but I say 2Ks are for the weak. Let's go ahead and just get our big bodies out. Let's go ahead and rest the Kikunojo. Oh yeah, I forgot. It doesn't really matter because it restands at the end of the turn. We have to have a 5-cost on the field to get stuff back. Oops. Brain fog first thing in the morning here. But anyway, we will go ahead and just pass the turn at that point. They have a lot of cards in hand, which they are going to be playing out the Mihawk into the Zoro, restands itself, and maybe we shouldn't have grabbed the 9-cost because now we are bricked up. Let's go ahead and then use this Tashigi ability to... do we rest the Tashigi is the problem? I think we just rest the Kikunojo because they're not going to be able to swing into any of this without having some enabler. Let's go ahead and just... I think we protect the Tashigi just in case they do have their own Tashigi this next turn. If they want to swing into my Tashigi, it's going to be harder to get rid of it as an 8k body. So that's something to keep in mind here because they could probably swing like maybe 9 if they have the 5-cost Tashigi to rest it. And I can protect it at least with the counter event if I need to. But the rest of my hand is bricked up here, so unlucky. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and rest the Kikunojo, probably a better target regardless. They're going to go 6 into lead. I think I just take this one, and then they're going to go 8 into the Kikunojo, restand, and then go 8 into lead. I might want to use my counter event here just to not take too much damage this turn. And then this next turn, I can go ahead and just Perona and freeze both the Tashigi and the Zoro from attacking this next turn. Let's go ahead and rest our 1-cost Perona, use the ability of the Tashigi, and we'll swing 8. and we might as well just swing 9 as well. So they'll probably block one of these and then take one of them. So once again, we're just trying to swing aggressively and, you know, beat them before they beat us, which I guess that is the point of the game regardless. So this next turn, though, we have an interesting, I guess what we could do. Okay, so another Tashigi. I was going to say we have an interesting set of plays here because we don't really have a 7 cost. We do have Perona, though, which is nice. And if they decide to swing in, oh, they're swinging 8 into lead. Okay, I'll just take that one. They're going to go and restand. They're going to swing into the Perona. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and I guess we can bring out... Bonnie, I think is fine because like I don't want to take another 8. I don't want to go down to 1 here. Let's go ahead and rest our Dawn. I'm thinking about bringing out the Bonnie just so I can get a free block off instead of taking one more hit. So they're going to restand their leader here and then swing 8. Yeah, we'll just snap block that to stay rather healthy. Let's go ahead and Perona and then just freeze these Tashigis from swinging. I think that's going to be our best bet here. Let's go ahead and then rest the Perona because we're not too worried about anything here. We'll use the Tashigi ability. We'll rest 2 Dawn. It doesn't matter, Dawn or Coffin Boat rather. And then we'll go 9 into lead. And then I think what we could do is just end up swinging 10 into lead here. We'll get 1 Dawn open at the end of the turn. And we can use the counter event if we need to by resting the Coffin Boat. It all works out in the end. And this is going to be really hard for them to really stabilize at this point because they're at 0 and they have to establish blockers, which they could easily do. They get a 3-cost event with the Perona. They have a lot of cards. They just surrender. Okay, so they did have a blocker at least, but I don't think they were going to be able to survive. So yeah, we really applied a lot of pressure. That was insane. All right, UP Luffy, they choose to go first, which I respect because I think that's probably smart to do regardless. This hand is okay, but I might mulligan this just to see if I can get something better. This is all right. I don't think this is an awful hand here. With UP Luffy, obviously, if they see their curves, if they see like a great stack, then it can be a tough challenge. We're just going to take this first hit here. They throw down a Zoro Juro. I think what we can just do is play out the Perona, see what we get off of the Perona. 9-cost Mihawk is pretty powerful here. The 2K is also good as well. Both of these options are solid. I think we'll just take the 2K here, just because we have a lot of top end already. Let's go ahead and play out the human drill. What we're going to do is just rest the human drill. We're not going to get any Dawn back, but I don't want them to ramp up so efficiently. So I'm going to go 5 into 4 and see if they can give us a 2K, which will be very nice if they do. If they let this go, it's also a win for us, and they let it go. Okay, cool. So we at least slow them down by a little bit here, and we prevent them from, well, I guess they just ramp up with the Bond Clay anyway. They're going to go 7. Oh, they're going to go 8. Okay. They're going to go 8, probably, yeah, into the human drill makes sense because I could just rest the Bond Clay at that point. Here, we're just going to play out the Tashigi. We're going to use the ability to rest our Perona, restand some Dawn here. And I think it doesn't matter about using the Tashigi ability, so I think we can just go and swing maybe like an 8. We could also rest the Bond Clay as well, because I think that might be worth doing, swinging 5 into 1. Now, is that a good use of my Dead Man's Game? It might be, it might not be. I just want one less attack coming my way. And we can always make up the hits later once we get some bigger bodies out. So I think we're just trying to tempo their board a little bit. We're playing, I guess, a little too defensively. Not how I exactly want to play here. Red Rock, I could just... I accidentally clicked cancel. I could have just rested my own Tashigi. Oops, that's one less attack coming their way. That's definitely my fault. Sometimes I click too fast, and that's where I mess up. But anyway, we play out a 7-cost Shanks. Let's go ahead and just try to be aggressive here. We could go maybe like 7 into lead. We could also go 8. This is probably a bad swing overall. Don't swing 7s, swing 8s. Make sure you're swinging 8s if you're doing this, just because we won't be able to play both counter events if they do decide to go really hard. We would only play one anyway, so they took the hit, but regardless, against UP Luffy, you're going to want to hit them for 6, 8s. They grab an Usohachi off of their search, and this is where they start probably playing out, okay, the Mihawk, I was going to say Sanji into something. Mihawk is really good against me here because of the fact that the 7-cost came out, but regardless, we'll be able to stop this with the Mihawk of our own. So let's go ahead and rest our Mihawk, prevent this Mihawk from being able to rest, and I think what we do is we just swing 8 this turn, and then we have the 1 Dawn open for the counter event. So let's swing 8 into lead. They'll likely take this one, but they also might want to not go down to 1, so they could give us a 2 and a 1, which we hope to see. 2 and a 1, there it is. Now they start probably using their Sanji, getting Sanji into maybe like an 8-cost Roger, or maybe another big body, like a Mihawk is fine as well. Sometimes they run like the 9-cost Rush Luffy, so we have to keep that in mind based off of their swings, of course. But if they play the 9-cost Sanji into the 8-cost Roger, that is going to be a pain for us. And there it is. Yep, figured as much. 9 and 5, we'll just let this one go. We'll take the hit here. This is an interesting turn where I don't really have anything I want to play. I don't want to play the 10-cost. I think what I want to do is play another Shanks, just rest it immediately, and then we can swing pretty big here. This will at least stop them from having huge swings unless they see another Mihawk, of course. We'll go 10 into 8 and then another 10 into 8. We could also go 11 into 8 as well, but I think having the 1 Dawn open just in case we need it, because there's a lot of hits coming our way that are big. They do give us a 0 cost event. We'll go 10 into 8. We'll stop the Roger from swinging, and then we pass the turn after this. We have played, I would say, probably pretty poorly for this match, but we're actually still in a decent spot regardless. Just showing the power of Mihawk, but I would say learn from my mistakes this game. Swing 6s, swing 8s, swing 10s, and then also make sure you don't click too fast on the sim and you can rest your Tashigi. So yeah, that's a couple of things to learn from this. They do play a Sanji into a Mihawk. They are seeing it all. This is really nasty. We'll go ahead and just counter out of this one with, I think our Mihawk ability is fine. We can go ahead and pitch a Shanks to stop that from connecting, and then here we'll take 1, and then I think we just counter out of the other one using the 1 cost event. Yeah, let's do that. We'll rest the Perona, and then we can give them a 1k here. We have 4 2ks, and then we have this 10 drop, which the 10 drop is probably better in the scenario, being able to freeze 3 hits. We'll rest the 10 drop. Well, we could rest the Perona as well. It doesn't really matter too much, but I want to give them like a target to at least think about swinging into, force them into having a couple options here. We'll go ahead and swing 6 into lead, or maybe we could do 8. We could do 8 and 10. Maybe 6. Maybe 6 is a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think we're going to go for game. We can still at least stay relatively healthy, and then we can go 11 into lead here. This will likely connect because it's going to be hard for them to like Gum Giant plus a 2k, although they could just do that. But I think they might take this hit and go down to 0 and try to close out the game this turn. So they have 2 efficient attacks. They could divide their Dawn up evenly if they want to. Once again, we can pitch out a card for the Mihawk ability. They grab an Usohachi, so they have a 2k in hand. And we will try to stay alive here, but once again, I think if we didn't play those mistakes that we did, we would probably be in a little bit better of a position to be able to close out the game. We would probably have like a Tashigi on the field. Obviously, playing the 7 cost Shanks, being answered by Mihawk both times sucks, but that's something we couldn't really help at that point. They're going to go 11 into lead here. I think we just, because they have 8 Dawn left, I think we're just going to go ahead, use the Mihawk ability. They could go like 17, and I just can't defend that no matter what I get out of life here. So let's go ahead and use the ability here to pitch the Law on Beppo. So we go 7, and then we just give them 2, 2, and a 2. And then here they might focus their attention with the Mihawk into one of the bodies on board. They could just swing like 12 into it. Yep, so the 12 and a 10 will definitely go. They're going 13, probably just have a little bit of safety in case I have a counter event here. We let that one go. And then here we just have to go 6 and then the rest on to the 10 drop, and then just hope they don't have enough. And this is also, once again, if we look back on how I played this, using the Dead Man's Game very early on in the Bond Clay might have been a mistake. I think probably we should have just held on to that. We could use it right now to be able to really close out the game, especially since they have 4 open. Then they might have a lot of counter events here. There's a gear 2. There's a gear 2. Probably more events overall, and they had exactly enough. The last card was dead in hand. Yeah, if I did misplay, I think we definitely would have been able to win this one. All right, into Crocodile here. I am hoping that they give me first. They do give me first. Love to see that. I think that their curve going second is better for them, and the curve for us going first is better for us. This hand is insane. Look at this curve here. We have obviously nothing on 1, nothing on 3, but we can swing 8 and then the next turn play out a Tashigi or play out a Perona. Regardless, we're in a pretty good spot here. They use the Disappointed and they grab the Ground Death counter event. They're playing out Miss Golden Week, which they'll probably use the ability just outright to be able to draw 2 trash 2. So overall, being able to fill up their trash by this much in the first turn is insane. So 6 in trash already, and they have some pretty good targets to bring out if they do have a Robin in their hand, or if they do have like a Bond Clay as well. So this next turn, we'll just swing really heavy. Oh, actually 8 because they're pitching 2 more cards. So they have 8 in the trash already this early. Do we play out the Human Drill, seeing that we got it on 3? I actually think this is probably pretty solid here. Let's go ahead and play out the Human Drill. The reason that we're going to do this is because if they do play a Bond Clay on this next turn, it's going to force them to use the Bond Clay regardless, because if they don't, then we can just rest it and swing into it. So I think that's probably something that they're going to want to do, is just pop this immediately. Sometimes the Crocodile will just play out the Bond Clays and then not swing with them that same turn, or rather not pop them that same turn, so that they can swing an additional turn the next and then bring out 2 5 costs on their 6 Dawn turn. They do have the Dawes Bones, so we'll just let that go, and then we will likely take this 5 here. So that's good to see. We'll get the Tashigi down. Tashigi, we can then rest, restand some Dawn, and then I will just swing 8 into 6 here. I just want to get this thing off the field. I don't want to even... I want to get either a 2 and a 1 out of hand, or I just want to get this thing off the field, which they let it go. The next turn, what we can do is play the Coffin Boat. We don't need to play it this turn per se. If they decide to go into the Tashigi, which they just play out the Mr. 4 Babe, that's perfect for us. We don't have to worry about them really threatening our Tashigi this turn. If they decide to go 6 into it, I can give them probably a Bonnie. I'll probably use a Bonnie here to counter out with. Oh, they just go 6 lead. We'll take that one. We can't really counter out. I mean, we could. We give them 2 1s, but I don't want to give them that information or too many cards out of hand. Let's go ahead and rest the Shanks, rest the Mr. 4 Babe so it doesn't get the ability off. Play out the Coffin Boat, get the draw going. And then we can use the Tashigi ability to then rest. And I guess what we could do is swing 6 with the lead here, and then swing 8 with lead, or sorry, 8 with the Tashigi. And then the 6 goes through. I'm surprised. The 8 will likely go through as well. It does. Wow. And then this next turn, this is probably a really strong 8-cost Crocodile turn if they do have it, which they do. So they're going to be able to prevent both of these units from attacking this next turn, which is fine because of the fact that the 7-cost Shanks doesn't need to be able to attack in order for it to get the effect off. But unfortunately here, we do have I mean, it's fortunate, but also unfortunate because we have the 9-cost Mihawk. We're going to have to play the 9-cost Mihawk in order to prevent the Crocodile from attacking. So we're going to have to rest the 9-cost Mihawk. And then that means that the Mr. 4 Babe will at least get an attack off. I think here we just give him a 1k. The Tashigi is fine to toss out. And then a lot of cards in hand here. So let's go ahead and just, like I said, play the 9-cost, rest the 9-cost, prevent the 8-cost Crocodile from attacking. Let's go ahead and then rest the Shanks with the Tashigi ability, and then we can rest the Babe for that matter. And then let's go ahead and just swing 8 into 5. So we're still getting the Shanks ability off regardless, which is really nice, even though we can't attack with the Shanks. Now this next turn, if they have another 8-cost, that's super unfortunate for us, but it might actually be the case where they do have another 8-cost. And if they do, we can actually just rest both of the 9 and the 7s with the Tashigi again. So there's another 8-cost Crocodile. Probably, yeah, it's not probably. They will stop the Shanks from attacking, and they're going to stop the Mihawk from attacking, which means the Tashigi can at least attack this next turn as well. We can follow that up with our own 9-cost Mihawk this next turn to prevent the second Crocodile from attacking, or resting rather. So we're actually not in an awful spot, all things considered. But they're going to go ahead and just do their thing where they're KOing a Crocodile, -10 to a character, pitching a card, drawing a card in the process, and then stopping both of these units from attacking. So they're seeing what they're needing to see. We're seeing what we need to see. What will come out on top? Probably me. Probably me. We'll go ahead and take that one because I think it's fine to go down to 2 here. We're not really threatened with any kind of lethal. Let's go ahead and then rest the Mihawk we just played. We're going to prevent one of the Crocodiles from attacking. We'll use the Tashigi ability to rest both the Shanks and the other Mihawk. We'll rest the Mr. 4 Babe, prevent the Crocodile from attacking, and then here we can just go 8 into lead. We can also go 9 and get the Ground Death and a card out of hand, but if we go 8-8, maybe we can get 2 Ground Deaths out of hand. We could also go 7 into 5, and then maybe a 9 into 5. This one might be just a Ground Death, so that gives us a 2 and a 1. And then this one being a 9k lead, or 9k into lead. They could give us a Ground Death and a 1k, but they go down to 1 card in hand, which I don't think they want to do. They do want to go down to 1 life, though, which is nice for us. And then we have the 2 Dead Man's Game to at least protect ourselves if we need to, if they decide to go face. Will they have another 8-cost Crocodile? They do. Oh, man, they do. Which we can actually just play the 10-cost Law and Beppo. They decide to go ahead and just forfeit at that point, though, because I think we can just close the game out. They had 2, 3 Ground Deaths and then a 1k. So yeah, this was pretty nice on their part to be able to see all of the 8 costs that they did, but I think we just, like I said, kind of a staring match. We couldn't really attack with anything. They couldn't attack with anything. So kind of how the matchup plays out. All right, the start of the recording messed up a little bit here, but we're going against Purple Doffy. We swung 5 into lead. They redirected it into the Dellinger with their leader ability, and then they got a search and a ramp off in the process. And then what we just did was play the human drill. So just a little bit of a catch up because the recorder didn't work for the first turn or so. But this is actually a pretty solid hand as well, going first. If you've noticed in our games, we are going first king. We do have nothing really great to play on 5. We could just play out the Bonnie blocker just to have something. I think that's fine as well. They go 6 in a lead. We can take this one, and we will not use the trigger here because there's no reason to. And then they might have a Dellinger again. They do. That's fine. What we can do is then swing the Human Drill into the Sugar. We'll rest the Dellinger. Doesn't really matter. I don't want to give them a free ramp and search, so regardless, I'm going to force them to use their leader ability, which they do. That's good to see. And then what we can do is swing 5 into the Sugar and then play out the 5-cost Bonnie just to have a 5-cost character, even though we won't be able to get the ability off. And then from there, we're really in the races because of the fact that we have a 7-cost, a 9-cost, and then a 10-cost as well. We have a couple 9-cost for that fact. So this hand's looking hot, even though we have no counter in hand, and they're kind of not doing anything really either. Just that's what Doffy does for the first couple turns. Kind of just prevents them from losing any life by using their leader ability here. I think we just let the Human Drill go because I can't defend. And then we'll go ahead and then rest the Shanks. We'll rest the Monet. We'll swing 6 into 6 here. I just kind of want to get this character off the field regardless. Force them to use their ability to redirect the attack into life. They actually just let it go, which that's pretty nice for us. And then I think what we could do here is we can swing 6 into lead, leave a 2-Dawn open so that we can use the counter event if they decide to attack into anything on the board. They have a lot of cards in hand. Oh, they ramped up to 10, so that is something to keep in mind. They could just get rid of the Shanks. That is good for them. Unfortunate for us, but hey, it is what it is. We'll go ahead and play out this Mihawk. We'll rest the Mihawk, and then we will restand some Dawn. It doesn't really matter because the 10-cost isn't going to be frozen anyway, and then we can play Coffin Boat, swing 6 into lead. They might redirect this attack into their 10-cost. If they do, well, I was going to say, then we swing with the Bonnie, but because we don't want to swing with the Bonnie because they'll just redirect it, we should just pass the turn at that point. Here they just bring out the 8-cost Doffy, really solid play, and they'll probably bring out Virgo, one of their better targets to bring out, at least in the meantime. But they could have anything they bring at this point because there's a lot of options in hand. They bring out the Sugar, which is still a solid redirect target, although at this point, I feel like they probably would want to redirect into the 10-cost at this point, just because of the fact that it's a free block. 6 into 5, I think I'd just give them, I could use the Mihawk ability to pitch the Tashigi. I think that's the most efficient use there. They go 10 into 10. Okay. So I'll go ahead and just give them a 2K. Not what I want to give them, but I want to keep this 9-cost Mihawk alive. I think what we do first is we swing the Mihawk into their lead, and then we'll freeze the Doffy. They'll probably redirect this one into the Sugar and bring out a 5-cost character. Depending on, like I said, could be Virgo, it might be a 5-cost Monet, it could be a Rosinante. So they do redirect into the Sugar. Whatever they do bring out, we can just go ahead and then freeze with the other Mihawk, resting this Mihawk, freezing this Rosie. We'll restand some Dawn in the process, and then we will go 8 into lead here, and we have a 1-cost event as well to be able to prevent this 10-cost from really attacking into any of the units and getting rid of anything. They do let that one go through because obviously 8 is a lot to ask for. They probably have a lot of counter in hand regardless though. Pass the turn. Here they're back to 10. They could play out a 10-cost, but it doesn't really matter because it would only be able to KO the 5-cost Bonnie. And then they might just double up and play another 8-cost, which, yeah, looks like they're doing, into playing the 4-cost Baby 5. Now, this one on KO will heal them, which is pretty strong to go back up to 3 life. Yet again, though, we will do a lot here to stop them from really attacking with these 8-cost characters this next turn, which means that the 5-cost Rosinante will likely be able to attack. Obviously, the 10-cost will be able to attack. So they have some options to attack with some stuff on this field. They go 6 in a lead. I just want to take this one. I was thinking about countering out of this one, but I don't mind going down to 1. Honestly, I'm not like too scared of dying anytime soon. If they decide to go into, yeah, they're trying to get rid of these 9 costs because they are annoying. We probably are just going to use the 1-cost event regardless, so it doesn't really matter about using the ability here. We'll go ahead and protect the Mihawk and then have them ready for the next turn. So let's go ahead and play out the Shanks here. Using the Shanks to, I think, rest the Rosie, and then we can swing into the Rosie. Obviously, one of these hits is going to be, well, they do have 2 open. We have to keep that in mind that they could potentially have, the slow beam. So we'll just swing Mihawk into the Rosie, resting the Doffy. They let it go, interestingly enough. Here, what we can do is then play the other Coffin Boat, just get a cantrip going. We can swing 10 into lead. They'll probably redirect this into the Baby 5. We'll prevent one of the 8 costs from swinging. And then I am inclined to, wow. I'm surprised they took that one and didn't redirect it into the Baby 5. Here we could, I mean, the Prona can't be played because I used the ability already. I think we just need to have at least 1 open for the ability for the counter event. They do decide to use the redirect into the Baby 5, and then they're going to heal back up, go up to 2. They have 2 swings this next turn, which I'm really happy with. We also have the Shanks as well, so if they do play a smaller character, we can rest it with the 7-cost Shanks, and then play the 10-cost Doffy, freeze their leader, freeze the 10-cost, and then freeze whatever we rested with the 7-cost Shanks, and then stop both of the 8-cost from attacking with the 9-cost Mihawk. So yeah, we have some pretty interesting options here. We can do exactly what I just mentioned. They play out the Rosie, pitching a Divine Departure. That's actually a pretty good card for them to be able to try to trade into one of these bodies. They might have another one if that's the case. Having as many cards in hand, 10 in hand, they likely have one, but they probably, I mean, they can't use it at this point. But regardless, here they go 5 and a 5. I think we just give them a 1k Perona. And then we will probably take this hit from the 10 cost if they decide to go face. If they don't decide to go face, and they go for like the board, they just go for face. I think we just take this one. I don't mind it. And then here it might be another baby 5 to go back up or prevent them from dying. Yeah, another baby 5. Totally understandable. You know, they're trying to prolong the game here. That's how they kind of have to win it. Let's swing the Shanks first, and then we'll rest the Rosie. This one does connect. Hopefully these 9-cost will go through because I don't want the slow beam to stop one of them because I want to be able to freeze the 8-cost as I mentioned before. Here they redirect into the baby 5. Okay, that works for me. Let's go into swing another 10 into life. I imagine this one will probably connect. Yep. And then here we're going to play the 10-cost and then freeze the other units. So now they have nothing they can swing with this next turn. And what we will do is, as a result, I think we just swing 7 with lead. And I think also we swing 7 with the Bonnie. I think we swing 7 with the Bonnie because, like, what threat do they have to attack us with? Nothing. So we'll go ahead and just be aggressive with this unit and hopefully get some more cards out of hand. And we do. That's good to see. We're starting to dwindle their hand down little by little. Once again, though, they're not going to be able to swing with anything here. Their best play is to concede, I think. I mean, honestly, they really don't have too many options at this point. With as big as the board is and as frequently as we are like stopping them from being aggressive at all, it's a really tough spot to come back from. Like, that play is ultimately back-breaking. Yep, they say GG. It's one of those things where, yeah, at this point, it's really hard to come back at all. They did have a lot of top end, but just not really a good opportunity to play it. All right, on to Boa. I'm going to take first. I'm going to mulligan this hand. This is actually pretty solid, having a decent curve, playing the Perona down. We could grab maybe another 9-cost. I think it's fine. We could also grab probably 2k is a little bit better here because we might be playing this human drill down. I don't want to grab too many bricks if I don't have to. I love grabbing 9-cost Mihawk, but unfortunately, it's a brick. You know, we don't need too many bricks in this hand, especially against Boa. They do play 2 Liliths down. They grab a Ran with the first one, and then let's see what they grab with the second one. Probably a 2k, I would imagine. Silver's Rayleigh, pretty solid card there, being able to KO a unit if I'm at 3 life or less. Let's go ahead and swing 5. They take, and of course, Gorgon Sisters off the bat. Might be a GG with that one. In this matchup, to be honest, I like being aggressive. I don't really like to sit back too much as Mihawk, and is that the right way to play it? Probably not, but I like to just be aggressive and hit life. And if they have bodies come out, so be it. They do use the Gorgon Sisters ability here to reveal Ran, Shocky, and the Boa Hancock blocker. Swinging 6 in the lead, I'll give them the 2k that I grabbed, and then we'll take the 7 here. Okay, so we're kind of set up here. Here's an interesting... I think I swing first and see what they do. I don't know. Tashigi might be a solid play. I think Tashigi's a little bit better here, maybe. Because if they do play a 4-cost Boa Hancock in their next turn, I want to be able to prevent them from really doing anything with it. We'll swing 5 into lead. We'll rest the Ran. I'm not going to swing into the Ran. And then I will swing... Do I swing? It's kind of interesting. I guess I'll swing 6 into lead here. And then I might just leave open the Dawn for the Tashigi, so that if they decide to swing into it, I might have to protect it. But if they want to get rid of it, it's kind of hard for them to do so. They do play out the Boa Hancock as expected, which will put a Dawn underneath their leader. And then they obviously have Gorgon Sisters and Ran to be able to pump up the rest of their board, which is really annoying, of course. So with the Boa Hancock, we want to be able to prevent that from blocking and then us losing a life in the process. They reveal 3 2Ks, so we know that they have a Rayleigh, 3 2Ks, and then at that point, I don't know what else they have. 6 into 4, yeah, we'll let that one go. And then here, I imagine they'll probably just be aggressive into lead. 7 into 5, we'll take that one. And then, oh, nice. The 7-cost Shanks, pretty solid there. 8 into 6, I think I'm just going to actually protect the Tashigi, so we can use the 1-cost event there. 2 into 2, we'll let that one go. And then here, we'll go ahead and play the Shanks. We'll rest the Shanks, resting the Boa Hancock so that it cannot block. We'll go ahead and then use the ability to pump up the Tashigi. Now, this might be a mistake because they have the opportunity to KO the Tashigi overall because I'm using all of my Dawn. I have nothing resting or to rest for its ability. We'll go 6, they give us a counter. We'll go 8, they take. And looks like they have a trigger here. Let's see what it is. It could be, I mean, obviously most of these are going to be bodies to come out of life, but there's a whole multitude of stuff, especially if they're running Lilith. Oh, they decide not to do anything at all. Interestingly enough. Okay, so this turn they actually could play a Rayleigh if they want to and get rid of the Tashigi, but they opt to not do that. They play a Kuma instead and prolong the game by a little bit, which is fine. They can use the Gorgon Sisters to pump up their field to be able to bypass this minus 1,000 blanket that they have. As we know, they do have the 2 cost, or the 2k, and then another 2k, and then they're showing a Ran. So we pretty much have their hand mapped out at this point. For the most part, we're kind of missing, I think, 2 cards, which one of them we can just assume is a 9 cost Boa Hancock. 5 in a lead, we'll go ahead and counter out of this one. I think we should counter out of what we can if it is base attacks or at least cause 1 card out of hand. 7 into lead we'll take, and then if they go another 7 into lead, we'll unfortunately have to take this one. Yeah. And then what we can do is swing with the Shanks. We also have the ability to play the 9 cost Mihawk as well and keep these counters in hand. We could play out the Perona, but I don't think it really makes too much sense, although it would be a solid tempo play. But I think what we should do is play the 9 cost, rest the 9 cost, prevent the Mihawk, or sorry, prevent the Kuma from attacking, swing with the Shanks immediately to then rest the Boa Hancock so that we don't lose that last life automatically. And then from there, just hope that they don't have enough to get through, which I think we should be fine. Let's go ahead and use the Tashigi ability to make it an 8k swing. It's kind of the same thing as putting 2 Dawn on it anyway, but regardless, it prevents its attack. Oh my god, a Gorgon Sister out of life. Unlucky. Okay, we'll go 5 in a lead. I'm going to leave 1 open just in case we get an event out of this last life, but we'll see what happens. What is this? Another trigger? Okay. Silver's Rayleigh to KO the Tashigi. Unfortunate, but at least we already swung with it in that matter. And we have 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. So if they decide to play the 9 cost Boa Hancock this turn, are we going to be okay? I think we can survive. It's going to be very, very close if that's the case. Obviously, this Kuma is not going to be doing anything, so they might want to play over it and then use the Gorgon Sisters twice if they have it. That is if they have the 9 cost. They might want to just use the Dawn that they have to try to break through this last life, which I think might be a little bit better of a play regardless. They kind of have to go for game here. They have a full board. And that makes the most sense to me. And that's what it looks like they're doing here. So we'll go ahead and I think we take the 7 and kind of see what they do with the rest of their Dawn, what they commit with. Okay, so they go another 7 here. I think we just use the Mihawk ability to pitch the dead card and then give them a 1k. That is such a great ability, especially in these scenarios. And then here, they're just going to go 6. We'll give them a 2k. They'll likely go 6 again. They could go 5, 7, but we have the ability to get out of it. We will go ahead and give them a 2k here. And then with the final 6, we can give them 2 1s, and we will be able to survive this. Yeah, they actually didn't have the 9 cost. They could have prolonged the game by a little bit by playing out like a Boa Hancock blocker and heal up with the Kuma, but I think we really were just aggressive, and I think that's the best way to approach this Boa Hancock matchup. So overall, I thought this deck was actually pretty powerful. We did have a couple of matchups where it was a little close for comfort, which will typically be the case regardless, especially if you're running less counters or have a bricked hand. But I do think that this deck is very strong and worth piloting, especially if you are a green fan or if you're wanting something a little bit different than like a Boa, an Ace, or an Emu. With Mihawk, though, there are some cards for consideration for the deck list overall, and we'll go over those right now. With the 2-cost Kid and Killer, this is going to be if you are running more of a Supernova variant, which you should consider the 6-cost Law. That is a blocker that actually bounces something back to hand and then plays a 5-cost. So that's a really good card for this deck. Of course, Kid and Killer is a really good searcher as well, being able to trash it and then restand Dawn. So synergizing really well with what you're trying to do. Of course, if you're running this Kid and Killer, you might also want to include the 8-cost Captain Kidd, going for more of a Fortress variant of Mihawk, which I can consider very strong, especially if Boa is very prominent in your meta. I think you can probably handle Boa just fine with your standard high roll version, but of course, this will probably be a better version overall to handle Boa, because they really don't have a way to efficiently deal with Kid unless they are running Red Rock, and a lot of decks are cutting that in general. Now, if they do run Red Rock, you have the 3-cost Tashigi as a 2k counter to protect your units, if that is something to consider for you, but I would prefer to not run this Tashigi overall. I don't really care about the protecting my units as much because of the fact that there's not a lot of things that can handle units on the field that are going to be 7, 9, or 10 costs. Now with Odin, that's a new 2k counter from OP14. It is searchable with the Perona because it has slash, and when it is rested on the opponent's turn, if this character is rested, the character gains plus 2000 power. So it is a very annoying chip attacker, but also on defense, it's harder to get rid of this because it's 7000 power. So your opponent's likely not going to be able to answer this by just swinging into it alone. On to some more 5-cost to consider, we have Jewelry Bonnie. That's up to one of your opponent's characters that is rested does not become active, or you can also do that with Dawn. So if your opponent has a specific curve that they're following, for instance against Ace, this is a really good card against Ace in general, being able to prevent them from hitting their 8-cost turn by playing their I Am Whitebeard event. So instead you freeze a Dawn and they're at 7 instead, they can't do anything at that point. Then a card that I probably am going to play with a lot more in these deck list is the 5-cost Carrot. Very annoying and really good into the mirror. On play, when attacking, up to one of your opponent's rested cost 7 or less characters does not become active during its owner's next refresh phase. So being able to then freeze the 7-cost Shanks in the mirror is really strong. Some more supernovas to consider would be the 7-cost Blocker Kid, all the way from back in starter deck 02. I guess this is the original manga rare. This card, of course, being able to set itself as active with 1 Dawn underneath it, which you can do very easily with your leader ability, so worth considering there. 9-cost Shanks is a pretty solid option as well for some top end, especially if you are going into the mirror or any kind of decks that will go very tall, like Ace resting their 10-cost Newgate. You can then pop it with this 9-cost Shanks. An event that I think should definitely be in this deck that I didn't include in my list for the video is I Know You're Strong, so I'll go all out from the start. It's a 1-cost event that says main, you may rest 2 of your Dawn cards. Up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 7 or less will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase, and then counter up to one of your leaders gains plus 3000 power during this battle. Really powerful here to be able to freeze units. So once again, we're trying to be as annoying as possible. This I'm going to be using more often for the effect on the main effect rather than the counter event, but you can use it both ways, obviously. And then finally, another card to consider here is Spider's Web, a 2-cost counter event that says up to one of your leaders or characters gains plus 4000 power during this battle, then set up to one of your characters as active. The trigger is up to one of your leaders gains plus 2000 power for the turn. So both effects here, very strong. But of course, if your opponent is trying to answer your board, you can use this to restand a character that you may have rested for your leader effect. So to recap, I feel like Mihawk is a very powerful leader for this set. Definitely one that I think if you're not into yellow or if you're not into OP13 leaders, you might want to consider playing Mihawk. I think it's just one of those that it is generically good and will probably be a very strong green leader for a few sets to come. That being said, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Mihawk. Are there any spicy picks that I didn't include in my deck list that you have in yours? Let me know as well about that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.